it's okay. We're together again for an excitingly new episode of Loathsome Things, a horror movie podcast. With me, as always, is John, and I, as always, am Josh. John, what is even for you to do today for us to talk about?
Oh, man.
Yeah.
I am for us to do today is to review a fine film. A part 2, we're revisiting a glorious franchise that we began very early on in the run of the show. I believe it was our second episode. And we are revisiting the Basket Case franchise, and we are digging into 1990s Basket Case Dos.
Yes, this many. A great joke on video, a terrible joke on audio. Listeners, we last time was our anniversary episode, and we didn't really do anything for it other than review the movie The Pit, which you guys have resoundingly decided to not listen to, and that's cool. But we were like, you know what? What we need to do, we talked about it after the episode. We were like, we really need to make sure that for our second year of Loathsome Things, we want to incorporate more movies directed by people of color, by women, by LGBTQ individuals, but not yet. Instead, let's just do Frank Henenlotter some more.
Let's just go right back to our bread and butter.
Yes. And butter our bread, will it ever? John, this movie is delightful.
It is.
I love it. It's not great.
No.
But it is so enjoyable.
It really is enjoyable.
Let's see. So Frank Henenlotter filmed this movie at the same time as he was filming Frankenhooker.
Yes.
They just filmed it hand in hand. This one came out first. He actually filmed this movie because he was talking to like the like studio guy, the executive guy, and he was pitching him movie ideas, and he came up with Frankenhooker on the spot. The guy was like, well, what kind of a movie would you want to do? And he was like, oh, I don't know. And he came up with Frankenhooker that way. And the guy was like, ha ha ha, that's excellent. What else? And he was like, oh shit, I have to come up with another movie? I just came up with a whole movie. So he was like, well, I guess we could do Basket Case too. And thus, we get this gem.
And the guy was like, let's do both.
Yes, and yes.
At the same time.
Yes, let's do both movies. So, yeah, this movie is, I for to like it a lot. I don't know what to say about it. We're trying something a little different. Instead of telling you all this dumb actor trivia all at the beginning in a lump, we're going to stitch it in clumsily along the way, folks. So get your hoist your baskets. I don't know. I lost a thing there.
Hoist thine basket.
Hoist thine basket. John, do you have anything that you would like to say to the people before we begin diving into the spoilerificus maximalius of this movie?
I can't think of anything specific. I'm excited to talk about this bucket of latex.
Yes, the old chewing gum of cinematography.
Man.
Yes. So go out there, watch the movie before you listen to us, or don't. It doesn't super matter. Also, it's so readily available all over the place. So digitally remastered. I don't know why this hasn't gotten a Blu-ray, but it definitely needs one. Maybe it has, and I just didn't look for Blu-rays.
Yeah, the version I saw was on a free streaming service. I wonder which one that would be. Had Portuguese subtitles.
Yeah, Portuguese. Yes, for all of the Coffin Joe fans that want to watch a Basket Case movie. That's fantastic.
You are now hooked up.
There you go. All right, so go watch it or not, and then come back and we'll talk about it. And you're back.
Oh my, welcome back.
So So the movie opens with a recap of the first movie because, this movie came out, like 8 or 9 years later, and no
Yeah.
one remembered. They were just like, nah, I'd vaguely like to go see Basket Case 2.
Sure.
So we get a lot of dumb news footage that's fake and not real looking after we see the scene of Duane and Belial dangling from the Hotel Broslin sign and falling to their squishy deaths, but not really. We even get Beverly Bonner from
Hmm.
the first movie, from Casey. She shows up as a witness, as like the news people are interviewing her, and she is 10 years older, but it
Yep.
is supposed to be that same day.
Yep.
And man, has her hair gone to town.
Her hair has developed a life all its own.
Yes.
Trying to compete with Duane in the first movie.
Yes, Duane in this movie, famously less extreme of hair.
Famously less extreme of hair, also 10 years older looking,
Yeah.
oddly got a haircut while in the hospital.
Yes. One of the things that I think is great about this movie is Duane looks so different, Beverly Bonner looks so different, and Belial looks so very different from shot to shot.
Yes, sometimes Belial is just a big hunk of latex. Sometimes Belial is a costume of latex put over a human person face. Um,
and
who can say which Belial one might get?
Indeed. Did you happen to notice whose face Belial was smashed over?
It looked like Duane.
It is. It's Kevin Van Hentenryck in those few scenes. It's just like, well, yeah, he's the twin, so let's just smash a Belial around his head and make him do bad teeth.
He's pretty great in this movie, I have to say. His campiness and like just how over the top is just super entertaining.
It is. This is somewhere, but in a glorious space between like Charles Band and shit. What's the Lloyd Kaufman brand?
Trauma. Yeah.
Yeah, it's right in between there, and it just hits the sweet spot of everything amazing.
It's a Trum bandwich.
Oh no!
I just dropped a link in me trow.
And so all of this news footage is going on, and we are treated to Annie Ross as Granny Ruth, and her ward granddaughter. I forget what exactly. Susan is also there, played by Heather Rattray. Annie Ross, you would probably know because I know you know this, listener. She is was a famous jazz singer from the trio Lambert, Hendricks, and Ross.
Oh man, that's my favorite.
Oh, so good. They actually were like super, like a big deal, and played with like Louis Armstrong and Nina Simone, and
Huh.
she started her own music venue where people would play. Kind of a big deal. And then she started her movie career, where she was in Throw Mama from the Train. She was in Fabrizio Laurenti's Witchery, which also starred Linda Blair. And she provided the speaking voice for Britt Eklund's character Willow in Robin Hardy's The Wicker Man.
That's
because
right.
that lady could not talk English good.
That's right. That's right. She did do that. That's amazing.
Yes, but even more amazing than that, even though she was Britt Eklund's speaking voice in that movie, if you'll remember, there's a singing part in that movie. That is not Annie Ross. They were like, Annie Ross, please do the talking, do not sing.
Do not sing because you're a famous singer. Also, the nudie scenes with Britt Eklund, also not Britt Eklund.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she pretty much didn't do anything in that movie.
Wow. Yeah. They had to have 4 people play Britt Eklund.
It's pretty amazing.
That is intense. What a treatment.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen the like really old Arnold Schwarzenegger movies before they would let him speak in movies, and they have people's voices dubbed over him?
Yes.
It's just so uncomfortable.
I think we should go over here.
I like that some director was like, you know what no one will ever like? Listening to Arnold Schwarzenegger talk.
Oh my god. Oh, by the way, I just want to add when they're doing the interviews, like the news clips and stuff, there's this footage of this doctor and he's like the sweatiest doctor, like he's completely like mopping his brow and like very nervous and just I just love that guy. He's so ridiculous.
Yes, I will say that there is like a special place in hell for fake news footage from horror comedy movies, and it is spectacular. Like they
Oh,
always do everything over the top.
it's so good.
We see that Duane and Belial survived the fall and are recuperating in a hospital. At this hospital, there is a policeman who is played by Brian Fitzpatrick, who would go on to play an LAPD officer in 24 episodes of Punk'd, and perhaps more relevant to our Star Trek fans in the audience, he played a Kyrian rebel leader named Tidran in a 1998 episode of Star Trek Voyager, and he is in here specifically to flirt with a snooty nurse and then get his face ripped off.
Yes.
This movie repeatedly refers to faces being ripped off. We only actually get to see a face ripped off twice, I want to say.
Yeah, and even then we kind of just see the after effects of the ripping.
Yeah, you don't get mid rip.
No.
But I do want to throw out this is a fun little other Easter egg for a thing that I keep referring to that you don't have a way of knowing about. The special effects in this movie were done by Gabe Bartolos.
Oh.
Oh,
I don't know who that is.
He might have directed a movie that we reviewed but have not released.
Oh, Gabe Bartolos did that?
Yeah. Is it Bartolos? I don't know.
I don't know. How come I don't remember that name? That's weird.
It was a long time ago.
Oh, he made that one? Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it was like one of his 2 directorial credits.
Huh. And that wasn't that long ago, actually. Huh.
Nope.
Okay. Yeah, I guess that was him. Yeah, wasn't it? Wow, that's crazy. I didn't even catch that.
Yeah, I just it's because there is dear listeners, there is the making of the Basket Case Trilogy. It's available in the same place where you can find watching this movie with Portuguese subtitles, and it's pretty great. Go watch it.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't seen it. I need to watch it.
Yeah. It's good. Let's see. So Belial, we see, psychically controls Duane's body so that they can make an escape from the hospital. There's lots of weird footage of Belial like through the hospital bed bars where his face looks fuzzy and weird, and there's like a green glow on him or something.
Yeah.
The special effects in this movie are neat, but super inconsistent and just all over the place.
Yeah, they're ridiculous.
Yeah. And after they escape the hospital, they're picked up by Granny and Susan. The way that we learn that Belial is controlling Duane is that they pull up in a van. Granny Ruth gets out and she's like, Duane? And he doesn't turn around, and then she goes, Belial? And Duane turns around and he's like, and she's like,
it's so ridiculous. He's got like his leg in a cast and he can't walk, and it's so stupid. And they pull up in this rape van. It's like, oh god.
There's this whole scene where he's like getting trying to get a disguise, so he gets some injured old man's masturbation trench coat and puts that on over his like bandages and stuff, but even his head is still hugely bandaged and there's like blood coming out of the bandage, and then he's just walking around in that trench coat with like a janitorial cart, and it's like, oh yeah, that guy can leave the hospital, it's fine.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, but part of the whole shtick of that is there's lots of cop business with cops getting upset at being bribed by a news reporter lady. There's also a cop that's just like, I forget if he's asleep or if he's just watching TV. So like he's just, you see him, he kills one police officer and then he just manages to walk past all of the others.
It's so ridiculous. Like he's so inconspicuous. He's like 800 feet tall. By the way, he's about a foot taller than he was in the last movie.
Oh yeah. He's got to be wearing pumps or something in this one. I guess maybe it's just, I don't know, his hair or something is doing it. I don't know.
I think he just was so young in the first film that he's actually a grown-ass man by the time they made this one.
I guess so. He must have had that final growth spurt. Spurt. Let's see. He wakes up surrounded by scary masked people, and he's like, whoa! It goes back to sleep, wakes up again, and now Granny Ruth and Susan are hovering over him and telling him all kinds of business. It turns out that Granny Ruth knew their aunt, and that they talked about Belial and Duane all the time, and that they, like, collaborated on stuff. We get all kinds of hints about, like, the fact that she was, she was called, like, the freak lady or something like that. This movie is real fast and loose with the word freak. It's a little troubling. Part of the thing that they were going for with the inhabitants of this house were obviously things that real people were never afflicted with, like that these are like fantastical versions of deformities. But it's still a house full of people with physical deformities and calling them freaks all of the time. And they even like call out the name of one particular syndrome in there. It's really weird and a little bit troublesome.
Yeah, it's for a movie that seems to really focus on the identity and the individuality of people regardless of their appearance. Their appearance is really, really important in this movie.
Yes.
And so much so that Henenlotter instructed the special effects guy to make them look as cartoonish as possible. And boy, he really took up that challenge.
Oh man, it's so good.
I believe there's a character whose name is Man with 27 Noses.
Yes, yeah. He's one of the lumpy faced guys, and he's just like got just an array of noses sticking out of like one side of his face, and then it wraps all the way around the back of his head.
Oh, it's so wrong. You have to even if you don't watch the movie, please go online and look at the makeup effects, because they're, aside from maybe the I forget his name, Madman something or other, makeup effects for the film Society. Have you seen Society? Oh, that is chef's kiss.
There are scenes in this movie that are very Society-esque.
Yeah. I mean, Society takes the prize, but the effects in this are they're fun. I mean, they're very imaginative. But yeah, if you were, say, somebody born with a physical deformity who spent your life being considered weird and teased and taunted by the people around you, I don't think you're going to feel much of a kinship with these people. I mean,
yeah,
they're not really presented in a nice light.
Yeah, it's strange. He was definitely trying to. He was trying to not be directly disrespectful to people with physical deformities, but it was 1990, and
Yeah, I mean, he wants you to. He does want you to be on their side, and you are. I mean, you do kind of root for them, I guess. Just because everyone else in the movie is so fucking deplorable.
That's amazing.
Frank Henenlotter, he definitely has a sense of humor, and that's a big part of this film, even more so than the first. But that is one misanthropic motherfucker, that dude.
Oh man, it is. He is very entertaining. His career is very entertaining. What he has decided to do and not do is just really interesting.
Yes.
Sometimes troublesome, sure, but you know what? It really seems like he's doing some of it from a place of love. I don't know.
And I think he had a pretty good idea of what people would find entertaining. I mean, this stuff is entertaining.
It's great.
It has its issues, sure, but it is a lot of fun. My wife sat through most of this with me. She came in and she was like, what the fuck are you watching?
Yep. Yep. Yep.
And she sat down, and man, she was like, at one point I paused it and I said, well, we don't have to watch this. We can watch something else. I'll finish this later. And she's like, no way. I want to see what happens. And I'm like, okay, well, let's play it.
My girlfriend came in at the most shunting of scenes and like walked in while that was happening, and she was just like, that is really weird.
Nailed it.
Yeah. You are not wrong.
She's observant, that girl.
Let's see. Granny Ruth has gotten Belial a replacement basket, which is the exact identical one. Apparently, that they for filming this, one of the people that had to like get stuff had a hard time finding exact baskets, and in addition to getting exact baskets, they had to get a bunch of them because each basket had to be destroyed in a special way for different shots.
Yeah.
So he had to like source like 10 of this identical basket over and over again, and he said it was more expensive than it should have been.
Yeah.
I went online, I was like, you know what, I want a basket that looks exactly like that. After minimal searching, I was not able to find one.
It's because he bought them all.
Yeah, probably. So now they're all getting to be happy together. Granny Ruth is obviously a good person, and Susan is there, and Belial likes them, and Duane is okay with the situation, and
present.
Yeah, he is present. And it is time to meet the family.
Time to meet the family. Oh my God! So we get this tour of this family, the freaks that are kept in the attic, because they're free to be who they are here and live with pride and not be treated different than anyone else. So they're sequestered in a fucking attic with in the dark.
Yep.
It's like, okay, whatever. So the first one we meet is Lorenzo, who is basically just a giant clamshell head, just full of teeth, and like the top jaw folds, and one of the teeth actually curls around the fold. And Lorenzo's big peculiarity, aside from his appearance, is his absolutely just beautiful opera voice. I mean, delightful. Granny Ruth is beside herself. She convinces him to sing a little and then just walks away while he's singing. To show. She's like, oh, it's so okay. Let's go look at the next guy.
And we're done there. Yeah,
we're done with that freak.
Yeah, for the entire rest of the movie, he's literally just there for the one gag that he's a beautiful opera singer.
Yeah, never even see him again.
Yep.
And then we move on to Anise, who is the resident poet, and she's I don't even really know what's going on with her makeup. She's like ghoulish, kind of like ghostly white with black sunken eyes. And is that the one? Yeah. And her head is like 3 feet tall with like long white hair hanging down.
I think it's supposed to be like bones. Like, I think it's supposed to be like a huge, like 2 or 3 bones just sticking up out of her head. And
it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, she's the resident poet. And you would think, we just got Lorenzo has a beautiful singing voice. Then they introduce her and she's the resident poet. No poetry.
Oh. Lay some lines on us, baby. Yeah. No.
Probably nothing. For the best. They probably like had a thing where she did a horrible poem and they were like, no, get it out of there.
They probably had that scene probably originally went on for an hour and a half so that we could see the special talent of each member of the attic crew.
Yes, because it is a little bit weird. She's like, all right, time to meet the family. Here's 3 of them. Everyone else doesn't matter.
Yes, exactly. Which is exactly what happens. She goes on to Frederick, who is the gigantic one who has like one eye up high and another eye down low, big fat lips, and a massive purple jacket.
Yeah.
Which, okay, whatever. And he's the introverted one. He's super shy and very sweet. And he's not a sweetheart.
Mm-hmm. He's hard to understand.
No, hard to understand. We're not getting any talents out of him, so just fuck that.
He just cares.
And then he just cares a lot. He cares a lot. And then we meet Eve, the mysterious green-eyed woman, I guess you would call her, hidden in under a blanket I'd say roughly Belial sized.
Right.
I mean,
In that ballpark.
yeah,
Yeah.
which makes you wonder. I guess there's classes of freakism, and
Yeah.
she's the Belial type. I don't know. It doesn't make any
Yeah, and
sense. It's not important.
she likes to hide inside a blanket like a cat during a thunderstorm. Yeah.
Exactly. She's very shy. She's in this weird crib with like surgical tubing on the edge and little tanks and shit, like the stainless steel crib that's all a maternity crib or something. It's whatever. And then there's a whole host of other ones that she doesn't bother introducing, but there's one that has a head that looks like a giant mouse's head with no hair on
Yeah.
it, and there's the 27 nose guy and the guy with the blobby tumors all over his face, and then the guy with the the piano keyboard, the distorted piano keyboard of teeth.
It's so good. It's just this huge, increasing in size fan of teeth. What is that, like, golden ratio or whatever? Of yeah, and it's just like it starts over on the right side of his mouth, and each tooth gets longer, and it's amazing. I saw that guy the first time I saw him. I was like, that is just great.
It looks like the keys to Willy Wonka's favorite organ. It's fucked up. So, oh man. But anyways, so we see all these people or whatever they are, and then now we switch over to a tabloid-style newspaper office. The newspaper is called Judge and Jury, America's bravest newspaper.
Because Frank is amazing.
I love him. And the editor's name is Lou, and he's talking to Marcy, his reporter Marcy. He wants more to the story about Dr. Freak and Duane, and he's talking to Marcy about how I did a story about them once out west. She had a freak commune, and so apparently she ran a freak commune out west for a while, Granny Ruth.
What a cool lady. I've got to interject here. Lou, the editor, is played by Jason Evers. He is famous. He was Dr. Bill Courtner in Joseph Green's The Brain That Wouldn't Die. And it was one of the movies that got me into, like, hooked on horror movies. And this is his final film appearance before he decided, wow, I am done with movies.
Isn't that, that's crazy. By the way, did you catch the poster on the wall? Not poster, but like they have framed like
headline
front page. Yeah, like headline pages from the paper. And there's one on the wall that says, oh God, what does it say? It says, I thought I wrote it down. It says something like woman saves, it's a reference to, it's a reference to the
nice movie. To The Brain That Wouldn't Die.
Yeah, to The Brain That Wouldn't Die.
Cool.
Like woman with undying brain saves man, or something like that. It's amazing.
Fuck yes. Oh my God. I have a DVD of that movie that I got from the dollar store because they had misprinted it and it said The Brian That Wouldn't Die.
The Brian That Wouldn't Die. Oh my God. Oh, that's so fucking amazing. Yes. Oh, that the headline for the article is "Woman's Severed Head Saves Lives."
So good. I love that he put that in there.
Isn't that great?
Is amazing.
I know. It's great. So Marcy's going to start doing some reporting. And so she calls up this guy that runs a freak show. His name's Lyle Barker. Get it, Barker?
Do you want to do it?
What? Ooh, the 100 Smackaroos?
Yeah. No, the who Lyle Barker is played by.
Oh, Lyle Barker is played by the absolutely fucking incredible Jan Saint. He's amazing. I love him. He was the wino in Crocodile Dundee. He was the street preacher in Frankenhooker. He was Santa Claus in Jacob's Ladder, which is amazing. And in the 1984 classic Chud, made by one Douglas Cheek, he plays a bum in the street, which probably wasn't Probably wasn't much of a stretch for him.
He kind of get a running theme on his roles.
much like playing a carnival barker.
Yes. In a gray onesie.
Because I yes, in a stained gray onesie that was probably once white.
Oh.
He's got one of those like sores that never heal on the top of his head that is clearly real.
Yes. It's just...
His teeth are all gross and his lips are like curved in because he clearly is missing most of his teeth.
He is amazing.
He is the best. God bless Lyle Barker. And so Marcy calls him up and he's basically giving her a load of shit about how he has the freak twin, and as part of his show, and she offers him $100 to come, to see this or whatever, and she was going to interview him, and she gets off the phone. They get off the phone, and he's all excited. He's like, 100 smackaroos, 100 smackareenies.
Clapping his hands. He's like, oh, wow.
Just beautifully overacting. It's fantastic. And then right after that happens, Granny Ruth shows up. So, of course, he thinks that she's the reporter, and he's like, damn, that was fast. And I'm like, so those two things, why do they happen at the exact same time to make it, just to propel the story forward, I guess.
But just good enough, because,
Good enough. It could happen. It's not impossible.
He even says, wow, that was fast.
Yeah. So he gives her the gray onesie tour of the freak show, and he's showing her around, and he gets to the what he thinks is what he's claiming is the Belial thing, and it's this big gigantic skeleton that's like made out of styrofoam. It looks so fake, and she basically calls him out on it, and she's like, well, first of all, actually, I have to go back. I love when you first see his carnival, and it looks like they put his carnival in somebody's backyard. It's just like a patch of grass, and then like this lit mini micro carnival just in the middle of a yard.
Yeah, it looks like someone draped a carnival curtain over like a fireworks stand.
It's so bizarre. And I like that when she questions him about the skeleton, because it's ridiculously huge, it's impossible that it could be Belial's skeleton. His explanation is acromegaly. Acromegaly. Emphasis on the meg.
Yes. An actual symptom that afflicts people and causes abnormal growth of like the hands and face and stuff. It's like, oh, why are we doing that?
Yeah, let's just rub it in. So she basically calls him out, yells at him, threatens him, and leaves. And then he's yelling at himself, referring to himself as trash, low-life, and scum. She keeps saying over and over, he's just darling. I just love him. And then he gets Belialed.
Yep.
Belial faded.
She leaves the basket in there for him. He's like, "Yeah, what's that?" And gets all Belial stuff.
He gets spring Belialed.
One of the things that, thinking back on it now, is weird. Whenever she was introducing all of the family members in the attic, she specifically talked about where they came from. Like she, the poet came to me, heard of my work and came of my own accord. And then what was it? Frederick, she had to purchase from his parents, and she even was like,
"That's right."
Was like, "Yes, purchase," and all of this stuff. And then he does the same thing with all of these like weird sideshow attractions. And he's like, "I found this one in my field. This one got shot and crawled here." And like, it's like, whoa, they're the same person.
Yeah, pretty much. But she's judging him, which I think is great. It's like, okay,
he's
whatever.
Just making props, and she's like, chicken wire, this is disgusting.
Emphasis on the meg. So he gets totally Belialed, and then Marcy comes back to not comes back, but she arrives because she's gonna interview him, quote unquote. So she shows up at the place. It's all quiet, trashed. She's looking around, and she discovers Lyle stuffed in the freak tank. And he's all bloodied and faces up against the glass. And I guess he's still semi-alive because he startles her.
Yeah.
Startles her, and she runs away, all repelled and disgusted. And So that's the end of that. And then now Marcy is talking to her photographer coworker Artie, who I just I want this guy to die. Like, so the second he shows up on screen, I want him to die. He's just horrible.
Yeah.
He's constantly chewing gum with his mouth open, and he's just a total douchebag. And anyway, so they're talking. They're gonna, they want to go out to Staten Island and hit up the freak house, and they're hoping that they'll, run into Duane because they suspect Duane's there and all this crap. And so they're having this big talk, and this is the scene where we have the first appearance of Jolt Cola.
Oh man, so much Jolt Cola.
There's a Jolt Cola can on her desk. As it turns out, while Henenlotter was making both of these films, obviously he was working a lot, he discovered the joys of the extra caffeinated Jolt Cola, thus the Jolt, and became like absolutely addicted to the stuff, and managed to somehow finagle a sponsorship with Jolt Cola for the movie, which anyone could pretty much figure out since there's suddenly like Jolt Cola cans everywhere.
Yeah, it's great.
With the logo pointing at the camera all the time.
Yeah. Just, and I love, especially like later in the movie, there's a specific scene where there are tons of Jolt Cola cans and they're all empty because
all of them are empty.
Like, well, we're not going to do this with full Jolt Cola cans.
Just be stupid. We need to get amped on Jolt. Yeah, that stuff is terrible.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. One of the things that I liked about Artie is as soon as he starts working with Marcy, he starts like coming up with a new spin on things. Like he's basically coming up with additional sequels for Basket Case, and it's great. He's like, what if there was actually a third twin and he's the one doing it, or stuff like that. I was like, okay, that's pretty cool, dude.
I love his version of journalism, which is just make up whatever you want and then just put it in the paper.
Yeah, like Fox and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So she and Artie drive out to Staten Island, and then we cut over to Susan. Is it Susan? Yeah, Susan is in New York. She's buying groceries, and she runs into this ridiculous, creepy Italian guy who's all like, "Hey, how you do? You want to come back to my place? I make you a drink. I make you margarita." And she's like, get the fuck out of here. Like, I'm not having anything to do with you. Fuck off. And so she leaves, and he's like, bitch. Just a totally useless scene.
Yep. Throw it
just
away.
To remind you that people are terrible, just in case you forgot.
Yeah. This movie plays like, how New York people love to talk about New York and how New York is.
Yeah.
This one, like, we got that thing about Staten Island. Part of the reason that Artie was like eager to tag along is he was like, oh, I love going to Staten Island. And then there's this little one, which is I feel like a stab at something. And then later in the movie, they're gonna say that I think her apartment is in Flushing, and Granny Ruth goes, figures. And it's like, it must be some sort of a New York joke for New York people to New York about. And it always makes me cringe a little when New York people New York about New York.
Yeah, my wife and I had that exact same conversation. I was like, what the fuck is the deal with Flushing Meadows? Is that like some terrible place? Or Flushing Meadows, the tennis venue, but Flushing.
Yeah, Flushing Meadows.
Yeah, who cares?
Yeah.
And like everyone else in the entire world who doesn't live in New York doesn't care.
Yeah.
Or have any idea what you're even talking about. So back at the house, Susan unloads the groceries. We see the prominently featured bag of Doritos sticking right out of the top of the bag.
Oh, yeah.
Thus the Frito-Lay, the thanking of Frito-Lay in the credits. And then the 6-pack of Jolt, which is just magically hovering over the top of the grocery bag as well. Which Duane takes out and like kind of like might as well just hold it at the camera. And then he puts on the table. He's talking to Susan and Granny Ruth and blah, 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 whatever.
I like that it's the Doritos from back before Doritos figured out about flavoring. And so it's like back whenever Doritos just tasted like farts. They're like, what if we made nacho cheese Doritos? And then they were like, oh, let's never make regular Doritos ever again.
Let's take a corn chip and cover it in cumin and salt. So it tastes like pure salty fart.
Gross.
So now Granny Ruth is psychoanalyzing Belial. She goes into the playroom, which is just coated with like creepy dolls and weird shit and baskets everywhere with toys, and she's trying to find him and trying to make friends with him and stuff. It's so ridiculous and predatory.
Yeah, it's super icky.
So she finally gets him to sit in front of her, and she's talking to him, and she gives him the great line, but she's trying to explain to him that that maybe he should settle down a little bit because Belial, ripping the faces off people may not be in your best interest.
I love in this scene she's doing the one-way telephone of like 1980s movies where it's like you say this, you go on to say this, and then you say this, and it's every time it's Belial going. She's like, oh, and that makes you feel insecure.
It's so stupid. Like he has his own language, which is apparently just.
Frank Henenlotter is a genius.
Yes, he is. Bona fide.
And now we get a kind of boring sequence of Duane just kind of being in the house and being with people. He accidentally walks in on the guy whose face is shaped like a moon. Like
with a penis on one end.
Yeah. And walks in on that guy in the bathroom, and the guy's like, hey. He's like, oh, sorry. And then he's going down one of the staircases while the most heavy set of the ones is going up the other staircase, and for a minute they stop and look across at each other, and that's something. And then he goes to talk to Susan, and apparently that was our bit of evidence behind the fact that he doesn't feel like he is a freak anymore. Like he's just a normal person, and this is a great opportunity now that Belial has this new family that he can leave and not have to deal with this, and he can just enter society as some sort of free naked man running around at night. And Susan says that we're all the same flesh, and she's like, no, we're still just like them. And he's like, you're not like them, I'm not like them. And she's like, I'm like them and you're like them. And that's a whole thing. I'm sure that won't ever come up again.
Nope.
We get flashbacks to Duane's dad talking to the doctors about save Duane, I don't care about the other one, the one Dr. Cutting or whatever.
Dr. Cutter.
Yeah, Dr. Cutter, Dr. sticking needles into people. All of them talking about how she's not even sure that the other one is human.
It's a flashback to a flashback.
Yeah, and then it goes and we basically see the whole surgery again from the first movie, including the really, really poorly dubbed over voice acting part of it, which is great. I would hate this if it had been anywhere else, but it's right here and it's this movie and it's perfectly timed. I loved seeing it again. Did it way better than The Pit.
Yeah, no kidding.
Jeez. He tells Granny Ruth that he wants to leave, and she's like, well, you have to break it to Belial. So he goes to tell Belial. He finds Belial in the attic, and he's holding hands with Eve, the similarly sized one in a blanket, but his hand is, the gross Belial hand with the knobby fingers and certain fingers missing. Eve's hand is like a good, smooth lady hand.
A lovely lady hand. Speaking of smooth, we also get to see Duane's ass in a shot where he's naked checking out his scar.
That's right. Yeah. You had to get a little bit of naked Duane in here. His scar looks pretty good in this movie. They did a good job on that. It's,
not bad.
Like crisscross bacon all along the side of his torso.
Yeah, you can't quite see the seam all the way around like you usually can.
Yeah. At this point, he goes outside with Belial, and as they're leaving, there's a gargoyle on top of like the covered porch on a like nice little like cottage home. There's a gargoyle up
Mm.
there, which is very out of place until it starts moving just one paw like this, and its head up and down and cackles at them, because apparently that's one of the freak family members is a gargoyle that likes to perch outside of a house and only.
Apparently only purchase, because we never see him any fucking where else.
Yeah, that's his only spot. He's here, right here, and then again later he gets cake.
I also, that's right, he's eating.
Yeah.
I also like when we see Belial holding hands with the Lady Belial, we pan past this character in this little nook with the window, like curtain over the window, so you kind of see him in silhouette, and he looks like Butterball from the Cenobites in Hellraiser with the glasses.
Yes.
And he's reading to himself. He's reading a self-help book and saying, "Every day, in every way, I am getting better and better."
Yeah,
that was pretty genius.
Yeah, it's pretty good. And then there's also right after that, there's one that like is just hanging out, and then he goes up to his like breathing apparatus to get some extra oxygen for no reason, and that makes the joke fall entirely flat. It's like, what? Why is this happening now?
The one with the metal plate in his head.
Yeah, and they just all fucking live in the attic. It's super not cool.
In the dark where no one can see anything.
With no furniture.
No, nothing. Yeah. They're just huddled around in the dark.
Yeah, there's just one or two doggy beds for people to sleep on if they don't have torsos.
Just living their best life.
Oh, man. And then, so Duane and Belial go out to some shed that never comes back into play. But from our experience with horror movies, nothing good ever happens in a shed.
No.
And he tells Belial all of his feelings about how he wants to run away with Susan and leave Belial here, and about how he loves Susan. He thinks Susan cares about her, and about how he can live his best life out there amongst the world. And then Belial starts evil giggling at him, and you get a close up, and this is the scene where they've shoved Kevin Van Hentenrich's face into a Belial mask and given him Belial teeth, and it's just him down there going
laughing at Duane.
Yeah,
laughing at him for thinking he could ever find love.
Yeah. Wow.
He's such a pussy. I love that he spent like 2 minutes around Susan and he's in love with her.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
What a pussy.
Yeah, at no point do we ever hear Susan say, "I would like to run away with you," or even in any way be with you other than just hanging out around this house.
She says she likes him and actually says the exact opposite as far as like leaving. She's like, we can't leave. We're not leaving.
Yeah, I'm one of these people. We are of the same flesh. That's not a creepy way to phrase it.
Not at all.
Marcy comes to visit the house, and she's talking to Granny Ruth and Susan, and just then Duane walks in carrying Belial in a basket. This is after Granny Ruth had said, "There's nothing here that can interest you," and she also said, "Even if they were in the next room, I wouldn't tell you." It's like, come on, Granny Ruth, you're doing a thing.
What a card.
But they like come up with an excuse. She's like, "Oh yes, this is the neighbor boy, David, who does groceries."
It's so stupid.
Yeah. And so Marcy's like, "Okay, thank you." She goes out to her car. Artie's there. They talk about how I'm pretty sure that was them, and this is going to be big. And he's like, "Oh yeah, we should bring it to Lou." And she's like, "Fuck Lou, this is going to make our careers. We're going to get in," I think she said like People magazine. Like,
yeah, we're going to get 7-figure book covers.
Yeah, we're going to be involved in the movie deal. We're going to get cover in People magazine. That's just the most 1990 anything has ever been said.
Fucking made it.
Oh man.
It's so stupid.
And so their plan is that they're gonna like come back and get evidence and take photographs and just bust this story wide open.
Yeah, it's really, really great for them.
Oh man,
it's so stupid. So Granny and Susan and Duane are doing some damage control. They're kind of talking about the situation, and Duane, lets Granny know that I just want to live a normal life. I'm going to leave. I'm going to take Belial with me, and I'm outsy. I'm outie. And it's just ridiculous. And she basically talks him out of it, and like convinces him that there's nowhere for them to go, and there's no reason for him to stay because Belial is happy here and all this bullshit. And then he basically says, I won't leave until everyone is safe, until you and Susan and Belial and Piano Teeth and Clamjaw and 27 Noses and Butterball and fucking Giant Guy and it's like, okay, whatever.
Yeah. He has this whole like Luke Skywalker moment where he's like, but if they're tracking the droids, then that'll lead them back home. And that's the whole thing, is that if he goes, it'll lead them back to the house or something dumb like that.
Yes, he'll ruin this utopian society that they've created in this fucking attic.
An attic full of bliss.
So Granny Ruth says, "Do I have your word on that?" And he says yes. And then she's like, "It's gonna be like old times," which really doesn't make any sense.
Not yet, until even then, no, it doesn't, does it?
It doesn't really, but it's okay, because the next scene, Granny Ruth is wearing a baptismal gown for no apparent reason, is acting very preacherly.
Yeah.
So strange. And she's looking up at the sky, pious, and like talking a load of bullshit. And Susan and Duane are accompanying her. And then they go over to the wall, and there's this pearl, like porcelain handle sticking out of this little cubby in the wall, and she tilts it, and then the secret door opens, and they magically have like this secret elevator that goes to the attic. I'm like, why did she use the attic stairway earlier? And why? So it's a house with an attic, and there's access to the attic. Why did she have a secret elevator? Is it because of Spider Baby?
I think so, maybe.
I'm always thinking like these weird parallels always pop up, like the grocery guy who shows up in house,
Yes.
and he's like, Mrs. Boner Humper, or whatever her name is. He finds Granny hanging in the room. But anyways, so they go up this ridiculous elevator with like 9 like extra security doors and everything, and like those elevator doors, those accordion doors or whatever. And then they get up there, and they get up in there, and she's like, it's so ridiculous. She has this rousing speech where she's gathered the crew, and she's basically, getting them hyped up to kill, because they're being threatened, and directly, and the only way to solve this is to kill.
Yeah.
But she understands, to be fair, unless we all need to do our part or whatever. Unless, of course, you have a philosophical opposition to violence.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was like, what?
Yeah.
What the fuck? What was that? Just a little nod to
conscientious objectors.
Yeah, that was very strange.
She does,
and then
she does reach out and hold Anise, the
Anise,
poet's hand whenever she says that. So I guess that's the conclusion to the fact that she's a poet, that she wouldn't do a war.
It was probably that's actually probably like a little bit of a joke, just making fun of like the poet is peaceful kind of thing.
I guess so.
It's like, oh, the sensitive artist can't possibly be violent or whatever. It's ridiculous. So anyways, then she ends her speech with this overly dramatic, like completely over the top, do we flee or do we fight? And then they're all so it's really offensive.
Yeah, it's not good. And I've got to throw this in there. That was ad-libbed. They were like, we're gonna follow you with the camera. Here's like what the type of thing we want you to do. Now just go for it. Don't worry about the camera. We'll do the camera. We'll follow you around. We'll take care of that. You just do your thing. And so that was her going after it. And man, did she.
She delivered. Wow, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Actually, that's really great because it's. I mean, it's yes, if you're looking for like real theater or real drama, you've obviously come to the wrong place. The whole idea here is to have fun, just go for it, and everybody in this movie goes for it.
Oh yeah.
And she's right up there with Duane. I can never say his name. Hentenrick or something. He gives a great performance. She gives a great performance because it's just so over the top. And I guess along those lines, you could say that like Artie does a great job too, because he's intentionally supposed to be obnoxious.
Oh man, yeah.
And he's great at it, and that's part of what makes this movie so fun is nobody's taking anything even remotely seriously.
It's so good.
It's great. So speaking of Artie, he sneaks into the house, or he sneaks up to the house, and he sees and hears Duane on the phone. Duane is doing his little subterfuge, red herring phone call. Like, oh yeah, Belial, he's very sick. He can't even leave. And Granny had to go get him that medicine, and he's just stuck in the attic, and I don't know what we're going to do to get. It's just all this bullshit, yeah. And of course Artie buys it, like, and so so he climbs in the window, like he thinks he's fucking slick, and he gets to the ladder to the attic, and almost runs into Kevin, quote unquote, even though Kevin almost runs into Duane, even though it's obvious that Duane knows he's there. And he gets up. So basically he climbs up the ladder. He gets up into the like hatch door, the trap door that goes into the attic, lifts it up just a little bit and peeks up through. And he's got like two cameras. Makes no sense. One with a flash. So he's holding up the camera with the flash, and it's all dark, and he says something. I forget what he says. Some stupid.
He's talking to Belial about, all right.
That's right.
It's like, be calm. I just want to take a few pictures and like all of this stuff. It's like, but it's a little bit dark in here, so I'm going to have to use the flash. So don't be scared or anything like that. And then he starts taking pictures. He says, say cheese.
That's right. Say cheese. And he goes click. And then the flash goes, and you see the whole crew just standing there. It's actually pretty creepy, I have to say.
Yeah.
For considering how cartoonish and silly they look, that was actually a little scary.
Yep. And then he just starts doing the flashbulb over and over again, and each time they're either a little bit closer or just in a like different tableau.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. And then he just happens to turn to the side and takes a couple flashes, and he sees Belial crawling towards him, and Belial grabs him, and then we see his feet get pulled up through the hatch. And then the crew all stands there while Belial absolutely fucking murderfies him.
Yeah.
And rips his face off.
Yep.
Although we don't really see that, but he kills him. But as it's going on, one of the other members of the group has his camera and is still doing the flash. So as Marcy's sitting out in her car, she's seeing the silhouette of Artie getting annihilated in the window with the flash going off over, and it's a great idea. It was a great scene.
It's fantastic. A little bit maybe a tip of the hat to Rear Window, because like isn't that the
yeah, that's right, with the flash.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even think about that. Yeah. That's fucking genius.
Good stuff.
Oh, that's brilliant. You gotta love that.
Good job, Frank.
Good. Nice call, Frank. So Marcy goes home, and she calls up her buddy, Detective Phil, who's like a private dick, I guess. And she calls him up, and she calls up her buddy, Dr. Phil.
Dr. Phil.
Fuck me in the balls. Anyways, she calls up her buddy, Detective Phil, who's played by a guy named Ted Sorrell. Ted played Dr. Edward Pretorius in Stuart Gordon's 1986 adaptation of From Beyond, a absolute fucking classic.
Yeah.
Alongside Jeffrey Combs and the delightful and always charming Barbara Crampton. I love Barbara Crampton. She's a great lady.
Fantastic person. Also, he was in a 1993 episode of Star Trek Deep Space Nine as a Bajoran named Kaval.
Just in case anyone who listens to the show likes Star Wars. Wait,
Oh,
God damn it.
yeah, Battlestar
Every
Galactica.
time. Just in case someone listening likes Buck Rogers.
R2D2 is my favorite Doctor Who.
God, I'm an idiot. Okay. Well, carrying on. And yeah, that was that by the way, that whole section right there was really smooth.
Oh, us? So good at
Yeah.
this.
Me particularly. You did fine.
Yeah, the part where I was just like pointing off to the side where things were, but I couldn't tell which direction it actually shows to you, so I just pointed both ways.
I'm using a single monitor, so I'm splitting the screen between the feed and the and my like notes and stuff, or the notes, and so I can't even see the chat column. So you're just sitting there pointing in the corner, and I'm like, what? Is there somebody in my kitchen? What the fuck is he doing?
We're so fucking good at this.
Hey, I mean, to be fair, we've only been doing it a year.
Only a year. We've got like what? We haven't quite hit 100 recording hours, so it's still amateur time.
Oh my god! Oh, I'm dying inside.
Next time, I'll actually incorporate the actor stuff into the summary notes.
No, but it's so funny.
Yeah.
I knew this was going to happen. Oh my god! Oh, I'm dying. Okay, get yourself together. Okay.
Oh, yeah, I'm not editing any of this out. This is gold. Nope. This is what'll get us fans.
So she meets with Dr. Detective Phil, and he lays the same fucking bullshit about the freak show out west. I had to rescue a freak from the commune out west. Like, yeah, you had to rescue a freak from a commune. You clearly a big heart. It's so ridiculous. It's okay, whatever. There's a whole other movie you could make right there, The Freak Commune.
Oh yeah, prequel
out west, a prequel. Yes. Oh dear God. So, oh my God. So he calls Susan, and he talks to Duane. He convinces her to give the phone to Duane because he's strong arms her or whatever, and he gets Duane to agree to meet him at this bar, which this bar is great. It's like Clancy's bar. It's a seedy bar. So they're in the bar, and Phil's like,
wait, no, I forgot, because he's like doing a prank style call, like where he's like, he's like, oh yeah, they're buying it. That's right. Oh yeah, you have to, if you don't do the thing, you don't want to do that. Like, call in the cavalry or something like that.
That's right. Yeah. I'll call in the cavalry. I'll have that place crawling with reporters or whatever.
He's like, they're buying it.
That's so ridiculous. So he gets Duane to meet him at this bar. And Duane is like, I'm pretty sure Duane is about 9 feet tall, because he's sitting in that bar booth, and it's like he looks like he can't move. Like he's just like up like a board, like all stiff.
Yeah. If you've ever had a tall friend sit in the back seat of your pickup truck, he looks like that.
Yes, he's got a PBR in front of him that he hasn't had any of. Yes. And then a glass and a PBR for Phil, and Phil sits down and immediately starts trying to muscle Duane into, like giving him the skinny, basically. Mm-hmm. And so they have this discussion. It's ridiculous. At one point, Phil's like, I'm out of here. And then he's like, now hold on. You haven't even finished your beer. You haven't even started your fucking beer.
And Detective Phil spends a long time telling him how handsome he is and how any lady would like to see his penis.
Oh my God, it's so ridiculous. He's like, you're even goddamn good looking.
Oh man.
It's like, wait, where are we going with this?
What bar are we in?
Why is his head going under the table?
None of that, young man.
So while they're having this conversation, in the meantime, a extremely large person walks by. Not, it's like so obvious that it's the tall one. Is it Freddie?
Frederick.
Whatever. Yeah, Frederick. It's so obvious that it's him.
Mhm.
He walks by and I'm like, oh God, this whole place has been taken over. I
Mhm.
know that's what's going to happen. Of course, that's what's happened.
Yes.
And it's so ridiculous. Like he says something like he's going to leave or whatever. And then Duane starts giving him this horse shit about whatever. And all of a sudden, like the bartender turns and looks at them and has this mask, this terrible mask on, this like featureless mask. He takes it off, and then the other patrons turn around. I mean, it's like the only thing disguising them is this tiny little mask when some of their heads are like the size of a beanbag chair.
Yeah, it's great. It's like these little tiny face masks that it just covers their, like, I think it's with Frederick, his eyes are sticking up over the top of the mask and he's just like, he like pulls it off of his nose and mouth.
Yeah, he like sticks his fingers in the eye holes and pulls the and all their masks are tied on with like shoestrings because their heads are so big they can't use rubber bands. So, oh, surprise, surprise, Phil, they've somehow managed to take over an entire bar in a city that no one notices. And so now he's cornered, and he's, what the hell's going on here? It's so ridiculous. He's sitting there, and he's talking shit with Duane, and he at one point he says, what the hell's going on here? And Duane asks him, he says, what does he say to him? He says, me and what's your name again or something? And the guy says, what the hell is going on here? And he goes, me and what the hell is going on here?
Yeah, that's right.
It was pretty good. Yeah. It was great. So he gets backed up to they back him into the stockroom essentially, which is super brightly lit. And as soon as he gets in the stockroom, we see stacks and stacks of mostly Jolt cans stacked in those cardboard boxes. Of course, they're all empty, which we soon find out. And Belial's in there waiting for him, and he gets completely Belialed. He's still got his gun, and he's fighting with Belial, and they fall to the floor. Stuff's getting knocked all over the place. He loses the gun. Belial's obviously got the upper hand, but he like somehow manages to get the gun, and then we see back from the bar point of view, we see that great light through the door bullet hole shot where it's like and the light, the beams come through. I was like, nice, very nice. And then they fight some more, and then the first of two times in the movie where somebody back first comes through an opening. Yeah. In this case, it's him through the thinnest paneling door I've ever seen.
Oh man, but not until after there's that scene. There's the little like the little pane of glass window in the door.
Oh, that's right.
And somehow, even though he has no legs, Belial pushes this guy's face into the glass and just like smears it in, so you can see like the blood coming out against the pane of glass. It's so good.
That's right. Belial and physics really don't get along.
Not super great.
Remember in the first movie, there's that scene where he picks Duane up by his dick, and like it's just physically impossible.
Yeah,
he just grabs him by the dick and just lifts him up off the ground. It's like, okay, whatever.
But this is also the same guy that can adhere to the side of a wall using his giant guts scrotum.
That's right, and somewhere has a penis.
Yeah.
Maybe he just is a penis. I don't know.
Oh, shit is a penis.
So he kills the guy, and they show him laying on the floor. His lip is supposed to look like he tore his lip off, but half his lip has prosthetic teeth put on it. So it's like his lip just kind of turns into teeth. It's supposed to look like it's ripped off, but
yeah.
They didn't even try.
The idea is that he like ripped off the like right side of his upper and lower lip, but left the other side of his lips intact. It doesn't look great, but it gets the point across of ripping faces off.
It does. It's true, and it's hilarious. I mean, once again, it's a wonderful shot. The whole scene is great.
Yeah. And of course, while they're fighting, there are just empty Jolt cola cans being flung around everywhere.
just Jolt-a-roo.
Yeah. And one of the things that I appreciated the most about this movie is whenever the cop has his gun out, you can see that it's not a real gun because there is no barrel. It's just flat metal, which is great. You know what happens when you don't use a real gun on set? People don't get shot to death.
Yes, Alec Baldwin doesn't murder anyone.
Yeah, great job, Frank Henenlotter, for not using a real gun.
Yes. Jesus God.
So they go through the police officer's possessions and they find Marcy's address. This is where we find out that it figures that she would be in Flushing. Okay, thank you, New York.
Great.
And they head over for her place. We see her. She just got out of the shower. Frank Henenlotter was like, do we show her naked doing a shower? No, let's not. Let's just not do that. Again, that's pretty cool.
Restraint.
Yeah, restraint. Not something you get a lot of in these types of movies. And they do a home invasion. It's actually a pretty elongated shot of her just like going through rooms from the bathroom to the living room, do a phone call. Hey, it's Marcy. I'm calling for Detective Phil. He's not there. Go into the other room. And then all of a sudden, Duane is just there. And she's like,
yeah,
oh.
Well, as you remember, her hair's wet. She goes into the bathroom for the 80th time, turns on her hair dryer, blows her hair for about 4 seconds, just long enough to go into the living room and realize somebody has smashed in her window.
Yes.
It's like, okay, that's why she only dried her hair for 4 seconds.
Yeah, just long enough. And then Duane's there and he talks to her. He does some really like gross menacing talk. It's pretty upsetting.
It is.
And then all of a sudden her entire apartment is full of the family. They're just all there. But none of them are going to do a bad thing except Belial. He's like, oh, but, Belial's in here and you said some mean things about him and he just wants to talk to you. The quote is, he figured you could ask him a few questions, get to know him a little bit. Then he could rip your face off. No big deal. And it's Kevin Van Hentenryck at his most excellent.
Yeah, he is great there.
So good.
No big deal.
No big deal. And then she grabs a very long butcher's knife, and it's great because we're getting this like in her face cam, and she's got it up stabby style, and it's pointed at the camera, and it's just so long and ridiculous, and I love it. And then she like starts saying stuff about, she's like, all right, and she's surrounded by all of these people, and she's like, all right, fine, and so she's like down for it. She's like, where is he? I want to carve up his sick little face. And he's not in the basket. He's like, oh, he must be around here somewhere. And then they see that there's like a different wicker basket there, and so Kevin Van Hentenryck, aka Duane, is like, what's in the basket? Which is, the famous line from the first movie where everyone kept asking what's in the basket. So she goes to the basket, and Belial's in there, and he flings at her, and we get this really elongated fight scene again, and this one ends, instead of with the dumb tooth lips, she has her face, like part of her face, twisted up and off, and it kind of looks like a scene from Hellraiser, and it's just like even like her like teeth and gums have been like sucked up into it, like a tube of toothpaste that you're trying to get the last drop out of, and it's fucking awesome.
It is amazing looking. It's like her face is suddenly made out of taffy.
Yes.
It was all stretched and twisted up. It's amazing.
Oh, so good. I love that in this movie, like the ultimate bad guy is a news reporter trying to find murder suspects. And this movie is just delighting in the her being hunted down, menaced and murdered in her own residence.
Sure, why not?
Yeah, it is a horror movie. It's just being told the other way.
Oh, it's so good.
And then to celebrate their great success, there is a picnic back at the house. There's lots of Granny Ruth going around like, okay, well, there's soda. Like, each one, she goes up and she's got like some dumb nonsense to say to each one, like, oh, I know you've already had this many of this thing. And then others like, oh, eat all you want, it's fine, we have so much food.
I like how the piano teeth is eating corn, but he's not using his teeth.
Yeah, he's eating corn on the cob, and he shoves it up underneath his teeth into like an actual mouth part and eats it in there and then brings it back out. All of it is now like, we're just seeing, what if each one of the people playing these characters tried to use their big stupid latex gloves and try to make it look like the mask that they're wearing is eating food, and they do it with varying degrees of success, and it's pretty
I
great.
like the frog.
Yeah,
The frog guy, where like the inside of his mouth is fabric so that the actor can see out, and there's a little rut in the bottom, so he's like taking bits of food and just he's reaching into a jar of like tadpoles or something. I don't know what the fuck is in there, and putting whatever it is inside the little fold into his mouth so it looks like he's eating. It's great.
it is fantastic. One of them like put something in their mouth and then takes one of those like picnic style tubes of ketchup, or no, mustard, and just squirts it into his mouth, but you can see that no mustard came
Nothing
out,
comes
so
out.
it's just like and they're all making like happy growl noises. It's like a Party in the Graveyard style novelty songs.
Yeah, the music is horrendous.
Oh, and it's great. I love it. It is, but yes, the quality of it is horrific.
Yeah, you froze up for a second there, but you were talking about squeezing the mustard and nothing comes out.
Oh yeah, I love talking about squeezing the mustard.
There's one of them is wearing a brand new, like absolutely brand new, right out of the box Jolt Cola T-shirt.
God, I need one of those.
And it made me like this whole section was making me think that it would be so hilarious to make a horror movie with tons of, like, basically the film was just comprised of redone scenes from different horror movies put together, like overlapping, like the Death Dream picnic with this picnic, and then the opening scene from The Pit where they're having the Halloween-y costume party. Have it all just kind of mixed, like the people from The Pit are there, and then like the freaks are there with the Jolt Cola shirt, and then the family from Death Dream is there, and then the dog gets tortured or whatever, and I don't, it's like, just goes on and on.
That's a great idea.
It's so stupid.
It could be part of Frank Henenlotter's plans for Basket Case 4, because apparently he does have an idea of what he would do for Basket Case 4, but he hasn't let on to what that is.
Oh wow!
Yes.
Amazing.
We should pretend that this show is sponsored by Jolt Cola and just do ad copy.
I love it.
This movie takes a turn now.
Yeah.
This is kind of like the first movie, where it's pretty silly and whatever, there are murders and stuff, and then toward in the third act it just goes after it.
Shit gets real.
This movie goes after it right about here. Duane, Granny Ruth asks Susan where the brothers are. They should be here celebrating. She's like, oh, well, Belial is upstairs with Eve. Isn't it cute? And she was like, oh, yeah, but what about Duane? And she's like, I don't know, but I want to put on a sweater anyway, so I will go inside and look for him. And she finds Duane. He's just sitting on his bed thinking hard, and they start talking. Again, he brings up the fact that they should leave together, and she disagrees. She says that that she's one of them, that she doesn't want to leave, she wants to stay here, this is where she belongs, and that they basically it's not going super happy. He gets all like forcefully kissy and stuff. It's weird. Then we get it starts splitting the scenes between that, and up in the attic we see Duane starts feeling Belial, and he gets like that twitchy like headache business that he was getting earlier on. And he's like, oh, I can feel something going on with Belial. Susan is like, oh, that's cute. You can feel that he's also in love. And upstairs, we see Belial and Eve are doing the foreplay, including like we get a better look at her, and it's just she's also a lump, but her face is played by the same actress that plays Susan, and it's much clearer. It's Heather Rattray some more, and also she has the pretty lady hand, and they're doing smooches, and Belial finds a particular lump on her that he's interested in. We get a close up of his hand, like getting this one random lump and just squeezing it.
They're just doing the tumor tussle.
Oh man, it looks like it's going to evacuate something, but nothing does come.
It's so disgusting.
It is so good. And then we get a really long, very society-esque, shunty scene of Belial and Eve doing a chewing gum style fuck.
So it is one of the most ridiculous things I've ever seen.
Yeah, Eve has a malformed leg with a floppy foot at a bad angle, and with every thrust, it's just like flopping back and forth, and like her face is pushed into the like railing, and you see Belial up behind her, just doing toothy good grunt business, and it really goes for it.
Yeah, they don't show you like a second of it either. They show you quite a bit of it.
It is. We don't see the genitals, but no. Other than that, we get to see a whole lot.
Yes, it's just a lot of humping.
A lot of humping, yes.
It's so disgusting.
And of course, Duane can feel all of this happening psychically.
Oh, that's glorious.
Delightful. Thank you, Frank.
You can't go wrong with that. That's just pure good. It's chef's kiss.
Yeah, so good. I don't know why more horror movies don't do this.
So, which of course, by the way, as you probably remember, Basket Case 3 starts with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You gotta,
just in case you forgot.
Yeah, well, it's flashing back to the most important moment for Basket Case 3, which I'm sure we won't review 1 year from today.
Nope, not going to be doing the humping tumor. We'll pick up where the humping tumors left off.
What could that possibly movie be about?
Oh my God. So Duane is with Susan. They're on the bed. Duane is feeling what Belial is feeling, but at the same time feeling on this deep love and desire for Susan. But she explains to him that, well, she had been with somebody once before, many years ago, and that was her one encounter, and that she can't have sex with him now because she's pregnant. But she's been pregnant for the last 6 years.
Fuck yes. Yeah, it's whenever he starts getting after them buttons and she's like, no, wait. And he's like, oh, I don't care if you had sex before. That's not a problem. And then she's like, oh, it's a little bit more than that.
I've been pregnant for the last 6 years. He just doesn't want to leave.
He's like, what?
That she opens her shirt and like you see this weird starish shaped scar. She puts her hands on it and kind of pushes
like a pimple, like a huge pimple.
She pops it, and then it comes out. It's a giant slimy hand puppet that is like a combination chest burster, and
penis.
A Little Shop of Horrors, and penis.
Yeah.
It's like, what the fuck? It's an arm hand puppet. It's so obviously like a guy's hand going by.
with like the like mushroom shaped penis head thing,
Oh,
and the teeth and the slime and the
oh,
all the flesh colors,
oh,
and
it's so good.
it just rises up out of her belly and like rah, 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 and looks at Duane. I love it.
Right in his face. It is glorious.
It is
Oh my
unparalleled.
God. And then man, I mean I can't there are no words to describe. And then we see Belial finally finally nuts, which Duane senses, of course. But in the meantime, Duane and Susan Duane freaks the fuck out
Yeah.
because yeah, he wasn't expecting that, even though anybody who was watching the movie was expecting it. And so he's freaking out. They're kind of like, she's trying to get him to calm down, but he's just too he's just too cranked up. So he ends up accidentally pushing her out the window. It like the second time that a character gets pushed back first out of an opening.
Yeah, a flimsy barrier.
Yes, but right before that happens, we see the picnic group, and Granny says, "I wonder where Susan is." Then through the glass window, she falls. Her shoe comes off. She lands right square in the middle of the picnic table, and everybody's like, it's so. It's again. I mean, I can only describe it as Shakespearean.
Yes, it is. It is so perfect. Oh,
And then Granny Ruth is like, she basically is like, let's go get Duane, go get him.
But not before, like whenever Susan crashes onto the table, Granny Ruth checks for a pulse real quick, and then does the eyelids close thing, like, oh, she's dead. Oh. And one of the tumory guys does the whole no up at the sky. Right.
I forgot about that part, the Superman part.
Yeah.
Then she sends them in. She sicks them on Duane. And in the meantime, Duane is in the toy room freaking the fuck out still. Like first you see him, he's kind of like almost semi-catatonic, leaving the room. He's just like, and then he goes into the toy room and he dumps out one of the toy chests and he gets this baseball bat. And he goes up and confronts Belial. And in the meantime, like all the family or whatever are combing through the house like the Keystone Cops, just like wandering around. There's latex going every direction. It's so ridiculous. So they're trying to find Duane, but Duane's already made it up to the attic. So he gets up to the attic, confronts Belial, clocks him with the baseball bat.
He says, "Can I talk to you a minute?" And then just whomp.
Clobbers him. And they're still looking, and then Duane, Duane's got him in the playroom or whatever they call it. So he's in there, he's talking to him, and as he's talking to him, he pulls up the sewing needle, and he's holding him whenever he's carrying him around in the movie, he just holds him against where his scar is, basically. And Belial just hangs there because it's just a big lump of latex. It's so great. They don't even try to animate him. He just this piece of rubber just kind of hanging there. So he's like talking to Belial. Belial's just looking up with no expression on his face because they're not even trying to animate it. It's just this dead face just looking. And then he pulls out this giant sewing needle and stitches Belial to his back, to his chest. And then Granny Ruth comes in with the whole crew, and she's all, "No, Duane," or whatever. And oh God, it's amazing. And there's blood everywhere, like fake blood splattering all the dolls, and it's so fake looking. It's ridiculous. And so he stitches him back on, and then she comes in, "No, what have you done?" And he's so magically fused to Duane again. It doesn't make any sense. And Duane just kind of looks up, kind of like past the camera, and says, "Hey, it's okay. We're together again." And then he laughs like a complete asshole. Movie over, and then he laughs over about a minute and a half of the credits,
Yes.
just like another movie that
Yes.
we reviewed.
Fantastic.
Oh,
Oh
I
man.
mean, unbelievable. What a great sequel.
It is. It is up there with the greatest sequels of all time.
It is definitely another classic by Frank Henenlotter.
Oh man, that scene where he's stitching Belial into him every time the needle goes in, there's just like a squirt of blood and it'll like go across his face, or it's so good. Oh my
It's
god.
Belial's like, oh, ow.
Oh my god. So I have to throw this in there that the gross penis baby hand puppet,
Mm-hmm.
that was their second idea. The first idea was for her to have some really gross vagina business happening, and then someone was like,
That's what I was expecting.
yeah, yeah, that's what everyone was going towards. But someone somewhere along the way was like, nah, what if we did like a alien chest buster instead type thing.
They should have gone with the mouth gina.
Yeah, vagina dentata.
Yeah, and another overlap.
Yeah, of a much later movie.
Much later movie. Yeah. Another fine one.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this movie is it's amazing, and I love the fact that it's just a silly comedy until the very end, where it gets hardcore about a lot of different things. I love it.
It's fantastic. I loved it too. I had so much fun watching it all the times I watched it.
Yeah. I don't know exactly what's up, like why they decided to make Belial look all the different ways, but I know that Gabe Bartalos made a bunch of different Belials for this movie, including a scaled down one, because they had to make a smaller one. You notice whenever you see Belial and the basket in the same shot, he's not really the right size to fit in it.
Mm-hmm.
So they had to make a smaller Belial for the shots where he like catapults out of the basket. So they just,
where you can see the spring pushing him out.
Yes!
It looks like almost.
Yeah.
It's so ridiculous.
Yeah. There's also a scene in at the beginning whenever he's getting the security guard police officer guy, where you could see like his ass opening flap where the like puppetry would go in.
Mm-hmm.
It's fantastic. I love this movie. The low budget charm is there while still just being spectacular to look at.
It really is a worthy successor.
Yes. Oh man. I love it so much. I'm so happy that we got to watch this. Frank Henenlotter, you're amazing. Please come back to making movies, maybe. Or if you don't like that, that's fine. I guess don't. But it'd be cool if you made another movie.
Oh God, yeah, especially if you made part 4.
Yeah, well, he's super depressed. Like, people have been asking him to make part 4 for a long time, but part 3 is so bad that he didn't want to do part 4 for like he stopped making movies for years because of how bad part 3 is.
Yikes!
Yeah, it's bad.
Still watching it.
Oh yeah, you saw the exact title of it, right?
Oh, I had it pulled up, but I didn't even catch it. What was it?
It's Basket Case 3, The Progeny.
What the fuck?
Yes.
It's like it's trying to be all serious.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you've got Belial fucking Eve in this movie, what are you gonna do in part 3?
Oh wow, The Progeny.
Maybe make it a road trip movie with a musical number.
Ooh.
Yes. So look forward to that 1 year from now, I guess, because I think that's what we'll probably be doing.
I love it.
Yeah. Very cool. All right, John, if you had to give this movie a loathsome rating of somewhere between 0 and 5 loathsome of things, what would you give this movie? Let me pull up. I wonder what we did. What did we rate the first one?
5?
I
I think
don't
I
think
gave it a 5 and you gave it a 4.
I don't think so. Let's see. Oh, you're right. Yeah, 5 and 4. It's a 9.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. Wow.
Wow, good
It's probably been
memory.
I think I listened to that episode fairly recently. I get a kick out of these episodes. I actually listened to them. I'm going to give this movie. I'm going to give this movie a 3.7.
3.7.
Yeah,
Nice.
I was going to go because I didn't want to give it a 4. It just seemed like I think I overdid it by giving it the first one a 5.
Mm-hmm.
But I just enjoyed it so much. I just was like, I was so excited that I just gave it a 5. And then you gave it a 4, and immediately I was like, yeah, it's probably more of a 4 than a 5. So for this one, I'm like, I'll aim a little high. I'm going to give it a 3.7. I certainly don't think it's a 4, but it's better than middle of the road. It's a lot of fun. I don't know. How about you?
I gave it a 2.9. It's really not that good of a movie. Like, as far as
Right.
like if you were watching this on its own, you would be like, what the fuck is this? This is complete nonsense. It is only good as a sequel. All of its quality is like it has its own charm, but it's so much dependent on that context. It's also not really super a horror movie, which is kind of like one of my grading criteria is how much of a horror movie it is.
Fair enough.
Yeah, but that said, so it's just a little micro notch below a 3, which is still all on its own worth watching. Yeah. Absolutely watch it. Yeah. But it's just I tagged it down a little because it's just not there.
It's a little nichey, to be fair, and it's not for. I mean, even for people who generally like horror movies, it may not necessarily be your thing. And because I mean, like you said, it's going to be useless if you haven't seen the first one.
Yeah, and
the first one's probably not a lot of people's cup of tea. So this one, I'm sure, would be just like 19. It's the 90s now, and it's got that 90s look to it. The latex is just ridiculous, like
oh man,
comical. I mean, yeah. I mean, I think that's a fair rating.
Yeah. And it comes out to a nice little round number for us. That's I'm going to go ahead and add an extra digit on the end just for the sake
to round it out.
Yeah, 2.9 and 3.7 come together to be a 6.66 Loathsome Things out of 10. Yeah, we got one.
We did it.
I'll make yours a 3.73 and mine a 2.93. There we go. 6.66.
Perfect.
Very nice. I would watch this again. I would review this again. A little part of me was thinking if we're going to name the episode Basket Case 2, we could just rewatch Basket Case and do another one. But this is way better. Go watch it if you haven't, and watch the first one. It's great. God, it is enjoyable. It's just not high quality at all.
It's not. Yeah. It's not. It's schlock through and through. There's definitely a gritty charm to the first movie that is riding kind of the coattails of the 80s and that nasty New York City. I mean, this movie takes place. It's supposed to take place in Staten Island, so it's shot in New Jersey, and and maybe you're losing immediately losing the charm of New York City, and the disgusting on-screen only charm of the Broslin Hotel.
Oh, which it does not exist.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it did exist. Didn't we say that it existed in the first episode?
Yeah, so if you watch that, the making of it turns out that they couldn't afford to do anything like that. And if you pay close enough attention when people are going up and down the hallway of the Broslin Hotel, the walls flap in the breeze. Apparently they're just canvas, and the credits, how it has like a full credits. They made up the credits for that movie because they didn't just want it to be the same 6 names over and over again, so they just came up with a bunch of people's names, and to fill it out they added that thing where they thanked the owners, operators, and residents of the Hotel Broslin in order
Really?
to add more to the end credits. The sign Hotel the Broslin or whatever is just one that they found, and they hung it outside of Kevin's his like studio apartment. They hung it from the
Oh,
fire escape and for those shots.
that's amazing.
Yes, yeah, there is just so few people working on the movie that they just made up the end credits to make it seem more legit.
That just makes it even more endearing. That's amazing.
Yes, his plan for the first movie was that no one would see it. He just wanted to have made a movie and to have put it out so that he could say he could, and then stuff happened, and it got really, really popular, and Joe Bob Briggs got involved, and all of the stuff.
And it hit the MoMA.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Amazing.
It made it all the way to MoMA, and he's like, "What the fuck?"
It's such a great document of New York '80s, though.
Oh yeah, yeah. But yeah, no, it's a great movie. Go watch the making of the Basket Case Trilogy. It's out there, and you can watch it. And it's full of fun tiddly bits.
Oh shit!
Including all of Frank's disappointments with the third movie, and all of the things. Oh yeah, what's her name? I think it's Beverly. Yeah, Beverly Bonner has been in every single Frank Henenlotter movie.
God bless her.
Yeah, he liked her. He saw her in one of I forget which one it was. One of the Divine movies that his first short was like played in front of, and he liked her so much that he got her to be in Basket Case, and then he wanted her to be in every movie since.
Wow, I think she's passed away now, if I remember correctly.
Probably she was that documentary is a little over 10 years old, and she was looking pretty rough. She even made a joke. She was like, "If you want to see how badly I've aged, come on down and pay me some money, and we can run through the script of Basket Case together."
Oh, dear God, poor thing.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
So if you would like to leave us a rating or review so other people can find us, or suggest a movie, or ask us a question, or mock us for our weird technical difficulties that you can probably hear little bits of in the podcast, you can reach out to us on Twitter and Instagram at Loathsome Pod, or on Facebook at Loathsome Podcast, or you can email us at loathsomethings@gmail.com. And yeah.
Yeah, thanks for listening. Try not to die.
And look forward. Oh, shit. I can cut that part out. And then it's an end of the episode, yes.
I couldn't even remember if that's what I say. I can always do it again.
I'm sorry you'll all have to die.
There you go. So what were you going to say?
Oh, I don't know.
Okay. Well, thanks for listening. And I'm sorry you all have to die.